Look, it turns out for some reason my wife is like the biggest and maybe only Dedenne fan out there. For a long time now, she's been asking me to make a highlight video on the thing, and I keep telling her that Dedenne is horrible. It's one of those Pokemon that's kind of just there, and it should never be used in a competitive setting. She did make the pretty good point that I've done my fair share of making bad Pokemon do stuff, and as her love for Dedenne grew stronger, I decided fine, it's finally time. Welcome to Dedenne or Divorce, where I have to make this thing a beast, and my wife made me do this. So here's what Dedenne is working with. It's an electric fairy type with stats that are honestly embarrassing. Other than base 101 speed, I really don't know why they had to do my guy like this. Its only usable ability is Cheek Pouch, which restores a third of your max HP if you eat a berry. And you may be thinking, hey, that's kind of neat. Until you realize that getting a third of its HP back does absolutely nothing when it's built like a wet paper bag, and it dies if it gets breathed on. Regardless, here's going to be the plan. We're going to try to fire off Charge Beams, which is a 50 power electric move that has a 70% chance to boost our special attack by 1 stage. If we get some boosts, we can potentially dish out some decent damage with Dazzling Gleam, or even Thunderbolt. So then we can get some extra help by busting out Endure. With this, we can guarantee we live an attack to get us into range to pop a Pitaya Berry. This gives us another +1 boost to our special attack, and even activates the Cheek Pouch ability, basically just for the novelty of it. With enough boosts and its decent speed tier, Dedenne just might be able to become a monster, especially with the surprise factor on our side. So today, it's finally time to destroy some people with the little electric hamster. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Dedenne time. Is there a better time out there? Probably, but you know, I'm over here using a Pika clone that is kind of useless, but honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. After this one, I'm kind of a Dedenne believer. It also got me thinking about Pika clones in general. Leave a comment, let me know what your least favorite Pika clone is. I need to see something. Also, if you happen to be new here, I do mess around often with trying to get, bad Pokemon to do some cool stuff. And if that sounds like a fun time to you, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so it turns out my opponent is also an enjoyer of weird guys. They literally lead off with the weirdier, the weirdest deer, and I've got an Ariados. Now, one thing we know for sure is the spider is here to set up some sticky web. I also am not exactly sure what this weirdier wants to do. I am in danger of psychic coverage, but in general, this thing is kind of a wild card. It's just a strange thing. Now, they do go for the psychic noise. It does not actually knock me down to my focus sash, but doesn't really matter, as I'm just here to spray up some webs and make things nice and sticky, and hopefully help out some speed in the back. So, at this point I have two options. Either I could get out of here and save a slow spider that's not going to do much, or I go for a sucker punch and check it out. I get a critical hit, with Sniper knocks it down to literally 1 HP, but he's got the invisible focus sash, and then finishes me off with a psychic noise. So, I'm like, the crit didn't even really matter, but at least we get some huge damage on the thing, and we also get to see that it's rocking the leftovers. So the fella's hanging on with an inch of its life over there. And honestly, this feels like a kind of perfect opportunity to bring in Dedenne. No divorce today. So I bring in Dedenne here. Now the reason why this works out nicely is because anytime I can get a charge beam off and get a kill in the process, that's a pretty damn good time for the little rat here. I go for the charge beam, I get the kill and the special attack boost, and that's pretty good. You can't ask for really a better turn than that. And now as they go into Dusclops, I'm kind of thinking, all right, so, an Eviolite Dusclops is comparable to the thickest man alive, especially if you're just a little hamster. And, I mean, this thing is incredibly defensive. I know I can't hit it super hard, but what I can do is continue to Charge Beam. Now, I get a Charge Beam off, doesn't do much. That's expected. But I get another special attack boost. And as the Dusclops goes for a Trick Room, the reason why I'm not really afraid of switching out here is just that I know that this thing can't really hit me that hard in return. It probably has Nightshade, but as they Trick Room, that makes things a little bit interesting. It's going to try to take advantage of the fact that I set up the Sticky Web, and they're going to be, slow in Trick Room, which is bad for me. So now they decide to switch into their Pachirisu, but it does get caught up in the Sticky Web, and it's kind of hilarious. We're two of, the most random-ass electric types in the game, but they switch into this thing freely because of the Volt Absorb. And as I'm looking at this matchup, my special attack is doubled at this point. Surely I'm not switching out. And as they click the Super Fang, that's kind of what Pachirisu does. Most of the time it's going to Nuzzle, it's going to Super Fang, but really it doesn't have much offensive power against Dedenne. And this is probably the longest this damn rodent has lived in its entire life. The lifespan of this thing is generally about 2-3 turns. And we're over here cooking. So look, they go for another Super Fang. It does knock me down to just a little bit less than the range I need for my berry. But as I finish it off with another Dazzling Gleam, we show who the superior, random electric type is, and we grab ourselves a kill there, which is sick as hell. So, here's the thing. Now they're able to go into Primarina, and it gets a little interesting here. It gets caught up in the Sticky Web, so under Trick Room, this thing's going to be able to be faster. But I know that there is one turn of Trick Room left, so here's the plan. I can go for an Endure, which does have priority. I bust that out to guarantee that I can live on 1 HP on whatever they hit me with, and as they just straight up yell at me with the Hyper Voice, I live it with 1, which is exactly what we're looking for. Because that not only gives me my Pataya Berry, it did a couple things here. First of all, now we're at +3 special attack, and that activates Cheek Pouch, which now gives me, an incredibly unhelpful amount of HP. But the big thing is the Trick Room wears off. So now I am back to being faster. I can then fire off a Thunderbolt, roast and toast them, but they just decide to head out, which is kind of hilarious. It is annoying that they run, but at least we get to chalk that one up as literally the first time ever Dedenne has forced a straight up just bail. And, that's a W for the little fella. But one thing we know for sure, we are not quite satisfied with that one, because this Dedenne still has plenty more destruction left in it. And I do actually feel like I can maybe get this thing going. So that was when I'm also going to ask, hey, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you might as well hit the like button. If every like is 1 berry that Dedenne gets to eat. If you don't click the button, the thing's gonna starve. Is that what you want? Starved Dedenne with no cheek pouch? The fate of this thing's nutrition is in your hands, and with that, let's jump into the match. Alright, so this time my opponent's gonna lead off with my least favorite dolphin. This thing looks cute and unsuspecting, and it comes back with gloves and a superhero outfit and just beats the shit out of you. But I have the spider, I'm here to set up the sticky web, and turn 1 next, they click acrobatics, which tells me a few things. First of all, it means that this thing is gotta not be choiced. Oftentimes I'm kind of worried about a choice band set, but the acrobatics does a lot, and I'm like, well, I don't need to be taking that from this damn dolphin. I can kind of predict them to maybe just go for another acrobatics here, and I decide to go into the Mudsdale. I'm thinking, even if they just go for the flip turn, which they do, I take it pretty nicely. I'm a thick-ass horse, and that also gives me some stamina. So I mainly just want to get my stealth rock up with the thing. They touch me, so they take a little bit of Rocky Helmet, and then they're going to head out. And when that bastard comes back, it's going to be looking a whole lot different and a whole lot more scary. So on the little pivot switch, they decide to bring in young shoulder pads. They go right into the Armarouge here, who, does take Sticky Web. Luckily for them, I am the slowest horse possible. I will not be doing any racing, and, I'm still slower. So they do have the coverage and the energy ball, but I do live it. I live it with 29. Honestly, kind of expected this thing to go to horsey heaven after that one. But I live, which is sick. Allows me to get up my stealth rock, which is the main thing I needed here. And while I have the option to potentially switch out here, I realize Mudsdale is not going to provide, much value here. So I'm just going to click the Earthquake, die to a Psyshock, going to go ahead and head out, and we're attacked by some Psychic Gas Particles. So down goes the Mudsdale, but hey, I got my rocks up. It doesn't look like they have good hazard control. And now I get a little bit of momentum on my side, being able to go into something like the Heatran. Heatran's in a position here where, Armarouge is kind of forced to switch, and the Lasagna Frog is just kind of a general good dude to have around. So as I decide to play it relatively safe here and click the Earth Power, they are going to get that thing out of here. And you guessed it, back comes the dolphin. This thing comes in looking pretty proud. It's got the... do we like this thing? I don't know if I like this thing. Regardless, it gets caught up in some Sticky Web, which is always going to be helpful in the guy. One thing of note, I don't know exactly what this thing wants to do. I mean, it has its crazy stats, but we've seen it click acrobatics. I don't know what item this thing's working with. As I Earth Power, I do get a crit, which feels nice. But one thing I know for sure, I do not want to die to whatever this thing wants to click here. So I decide I can go into my most expendable little spider here and essentially just let the Ariados go down. It's going to allow me to scout a little bit, but also more importantly, just allow me a free matchup and not have to worry about switching into the thing. Down goes the spider, died for the betterment of the team. And at this point now, I have a couple options. I could go to Dedenne, but also as I'm looking at it, Bramblegast is a pretty solid fella to go into here. I can basically, I can outspeed because of the Sticky Web, and I'm thinking they likely switch here. So instead of Power Whip, I'm going to go for the Poltergeist. And as it happens, it fails because they do not have an item for the acrobatics, and as they click the acrobatics, I go down. Buddy just straight up put my ass in a blunt. And that was the no item for the acrobatics is kind of hilarious, and I am incredibly down bad. So, down goes the Bramblegast for literally nothing, but what that does do now is opens the door for the real threat. I can freely switch into Dedenne. I am faster because of the Sticky Web. I can hit him with a Charge Beam, and that's amazing because we get the special attack boost and with the kill. And again, I've said it before, anytime you can get a kill and the special attack boost on Dedenne, you're having a good time. So, while that thing's out of the way, that feels pretty good. I cannot believe how hoed I just was with that Poltergeist. I was like, what? Forget that that's even a damn possibility. But now as they go into Garganacl, this fella is a problem. And as much as I would like to try to take advantage of the Dedenne here, I gotta play my cards right. But he's got some scary stuff left. And I'm down to 3 Mons here, so knowing that they likely just click an Earthquake, I'm going to save the Dedenne for later. And it does have potential to come back and maybe even be the GOAT. But I decide Braviary is kind of my best bet here. I don't have much that wants to hit this thing, but I come in freely on the Earthquake, which is always nice. And at this point, Braviary is kind of my best option here. I can go for a Terra Fighting. The reason why I need to go for that is to resist the, rock coverage. It's probably going to go for Salt Cure, because that's what this salty asshole does, just, cures you. But I put the fist straight up on my head, and here's the thing. I go for the agility on this turn, and the reason why I do that is to scout out a turn to see if they potentially want to Terra. I don't necessarily need the speed. I mean, I always got a need for speed, but, I mean, if this thing goes for a Ghost Terra on my close combat, I was going to be down bad. So, I agility there, and as they Salt Cure, essentially it just gives me a free turn. Not only that, but I'm also guaranteed faster than everything now. And if I can somehow get out of this with health, I can maybe deal with at least breaking the disguise on the Mimikyu. But at this point, I get my agility off. I can now go for a close combat. And with the Terra boost, gonna be pretty big damage. But of course, Minecraft guy, he lives it with like 5 HP. Because this thing just, I don't know what it is about this thing just never dies. It's so annoying. So as they go for the body press, that does a ton of damage. And then I take some Salt Cure. And Braviary is, not looking, I mean, we're looking probably delicious after the Salt Cure, but we're not looking too good. So I decide now to just go for the Sky Attack in case they want to fuck around and switch into the Mimikyu or something. But they do just let the crazy-ass salty, God, I hate this thing. It goes down to the Power Herb allows me at least to attack immediately. That's going to take care of it. Now I potentially had an Acrobatics stored up, but, of course the Salt Cure is going to finish me off. So down goes the Braviary. Now we're in a crazy spot in this match here. The main looming kind of threat is going to be the Mimikyu back there. And that's just because you got to touch it at least once to get that out of there. And I am now down to 2 Mons. I've got Heatran and I've got the Dedenne. Now, I'm thinking if I'm them, I probably go Mimikyu. So I decide to bring in the Heatran. If I can somehow break that disguise, and my plan is then to basically see if Dedenne can clutch up the match for us. Now, instead, they decide to bring in the King Gambit. Now, Gambit is very scary here. I'm thinking, on this matchup, as it gets its Supreme Overlord, obviously this thing is very scary. Here's the thing, a Magma Storm would kill it, but I decide to go for the Earth Power instead. I want to, honestly, just put this thing into range where a Charge Beam can kill with the Dedenne. Now, as they kowtow cleave, Lasagna way too thick, I'm not going to be able to kind of really see what I wanted to do there, but it ends up not working out great for me. I finished it off with an Earth Power, which is good, so I mean, King Gambit goes down, but Dedenne wasn't worried about the Sucker Punch regardless. What I am worried about now is the Mons they've got left, which is of course going to be the damn Mimikyu, but then they've got a Heracross and the Armarouge, so while I take some unnecessary damage on the Heatran, it's really not the end of the world. So Mimikyu comes in, takes some Sticky Web and some Stealth Rock. Problem is its neck is not snapped yet, so I decided to go for the Lava Plume. I'm thinking I can potentially get the burn even through to the disguise would be sick as hell, and guess what? I get it. The burn comes in incredibly clutch, because now that's going to make Dedenne's life in the back so much easier. Honestly, even with Heatran, unless it has fighting coverage here, I can still fire off a nice little flash cannon. And as they do go for the Shadow Claw, it gets the crit, which isn't really that big of a deal. Heatran's still kicking. Honestly, this Heatran provides crazy value. And now I'm looking at it like, you know what? I could flash cannon here, but also there's not a better spot to be able to get into Dedenne against the other Mons here. I need to get this thing in now, because I know that especially burnt, Dedenne can take attacks from this thing. And that's, again, something nobody's ever said about a Dedenne is living attacks, but I can. And as I go for the Phantom Force, it disappears for a minute, which is kind of annoying, because now as I outspeed, I Charge Beam the air. I believe you should still be able to get the special attack boost if it doesn't connect. But regardless, it goes for the Phantom Force, does less than half, which is sick as hell. And as it continues to take some more burn chip, the plan is this. I know that I'm faster than everything they have in the back, and if I can stack just a couple Charge Beam special attack boosts, Dedenne could be in a spot to clutch this match out, and it's going to require some help, but it could be possible. So, first Charge Beam is going to get me the special attack boost, but it doesn't do much. And in turn, they go ahead and click the Will-O-Wisp, and that's one thing Dedenne's got going for it. I feel like most of the time people expect it to like click Nuzzle or just something, but the burn doesn't really matter here. It is annoying in terms of taking continual damage every turn, but it doesn't obviously affect our offenses here, and we get the free Charge Beam. Now, looking at it, another Charge Beam killed. And if I get another boost, I'm in a spot to OHKO the rest of the 2 Mons, but it misses. Because Charge Beam is a 90% accurate move, and of course, if it can miss, it does in the worst moment ever. So that really sucks, because I take another Shadow Claw. But we got a little good news coming along with it. It does activate my Pitaya Berry, so that gives me another special attack boost. We're now at +2, and with the Cheek Pouch, even if they had the Shadow Sneak, I should be able to live it now. So I'm chilling at like half, and honestly, I'm like, you know what? If I miss another Charge Beam, the game is over. I need to be able to connect on it. So I go for the Thunderbolt. I figure +2 special attack should be enough to clear out the final 2 Mons, and it all comes down to this weird baby Raichu thing, and Jesus Christ, if there's ever a time for Dedenne to clutch it out, it needs to be now. So 2 Mons left. It's going to be the Heracross. They have the Armarouge. First, they decide to go into the Heracross here. And even if this thing is Choice Scarf, luckily because of that Sticky Web, it's going to now be in a spot where we are faster. And I have the coverage with the Dazzling Gleam. But one thing I completely forget about is the fact that they do still have the Terra. They do decide to bust out the Terra, and I'm thinking, no, there's no way. It goes for the Terra normal. That's going to make things interesting, because now a no longer super effective Dazzling Gleam is close on if it's going to get a kill here with that Stealth Rock chip. Now, as I go for it, it lives. It barely is able to hang on, but as it fires off a Brick Break, look at this. Resisted Brick Break, Dedenne is able to live. This thing, Sammy the Dedenne is going where no Dedenne has gone before, and luckily their fighting coverage being Brick Break is just weak enough to where we're able to live the resisted hit. But not only that, we now have 12 HP left, and we can fire off a Thunderbolt to first of all, you know, kill the Heracross, which is incredibly sick. But not only that, we should be able to live this next burn recoil just barely to give us one more attack versus the Armarouge. Now that brings us to 4 HP. We're hanging on by a damn thread, but that might just be all we need, because as Armarouge comes in, it does take Stealth Rock Chip, which is huge. Important to know. It obviously gets caught up in the Sticky Web. We're faster anyway. This Dedenne's been running on its hamster wheel all damn day preparing for this, and all I have to do is fire off a Thunderbolt at +2 special attack. Should be able to grab a kill, and guess what? It does. And this Dedenne has clutched it out like never before. The game was on the line. The next turn I go down to the burn damage, but we stay alive. We saved the life of the damn thing, and that was kind of a crazy ending on that one. Dedenne is sick as hell, and that was pretty wild. Now, on that note, I have another little bonus match for you, because honestly, this thing is pretty fun, and we're just gonna continue to mess around with it and mostly see what happens. I got a goofy game here. I will disclaimer, this one's weird as hell, but it's also pretty interesting and fun. And whenever Dedenne's around, the threat is looming. So let's jump into it. All right, so I will start off by saying generally the plan when I see something like a Skeledirge, I cannot set up in front of things. The unaware Skeledirge really just ruins your day when it comes to that. Now, they probably expect me to lead off with the Ariados, which is why they go with the freaking Singer Crocodile. Allows them to fire off a Torch Song turn 1, brings me down to my Sash. But, you know what I mean, that's why we're working with the Sash. I can guarantee I get up the web, and this thing does get pretty scary the more special attack boosts that it gets. Now, the one interesting thing about this matchup is that it can't really afford to kill me with another Torch Song. If I switch into Heatran with a Flash Fire, it's kind of in trouble. But I decide anyway, screw it. I'm just going to click the Sucker Punch. I could really use some chip on the thing. Skeledirge is the kind of guy that chip is incredibly valuable. Now, especially when I have a team that's trying to set up on stuff, this unaware fella needs to get the hell out of here. So they do finish me off with another Torch Song, sadly, because that just doubles this thing's special attack, gets to +2, and it's kind of a threat. Now, luckily, I do have the perfect Lava Frog for the job because I'm Assault Vested, so even with +2 special, I can take, you know, any kind of coverage move this thing's got, and then I can fire off an Earth Power, and I really just need damage on the guy. So they do go for the Shadow Ball, hits me right in the face, but look at that, we live it easily. The Assault Vest Heatran, kind of the GOAT, not gonna lie. Now that allows me to fire off the Earth Power, and that actually takes care of it. Down goes the Dirge. We love to see it, and now that makes Dedenne's potential to maybe be able to set up a little easier on him, or on us. So at this point now, they decide to go into the Urshifu, and the Sticky Web is going to be pretty important for this fella specifically. Buff-ass bear over here is such a problem. I know that it's going to go for Surging Strikes, and with that knowledge, I can freely switch into the Bramblegast. I should be able to live one of them, even though this thing's made of literal twigs. It gets snapped in half easily as hell, but I come in, does hit us 3 times for crits, because Game Freak just loves, why do they love this thing so much? so annoying. But I leave it with, you know, less than half. But that's fine because now I outspeed. And a Power Whip should be able to honestly grab a kill here. I consider the Strength Sap button stares at me like the Green Goblin mask. But I'm like, no. I need to stay to the plan here. Go for the Power Whip. And that does just straight up knock Buddy out in the most kinky way possible. So while that feels pretty good, you know, Bramblegast is on a nice little high on that one. In comes the freaking Reviver. So, you know, Pomot, I don't know what, I never remember what the hell the name thing is, but regardless, fighting type Pikachu is a Revival Blessing fella. And I'm like, you know what, I could use some health back on the Bramblegast. I decided to go for the Strength Sap, which is great because it drops their attack, so I'm not worried about like anything it can really hit me with. Brings me back to full, more importantly. But then they do fire off the Revival Blessing. So they have obviously two options for that. It's going to be either Urshifu or the Skeledirge. As I imagine it's probably going to be Skeledirge. It does come through with the Japanese name. It is going to be the Urshifu. Good to know. And that's at least, I thought I taught that old man a lesson. Going to have to teach that old man a lesson again if I want to win this match. But, you know, it's fine. I think it comes back at half health, so that at least is pretty helpful. So as I now go for the Power Whip, sad news for me is it ends up being the Dragonite. And as it comes in with that multi-scale, it does literally nothing to it. And then it even has leftovers. But luckily it doesn't get it back to full, so I have potential to hit it with a Poltergeist here and not, you know, worry about having to hit it through the multi-scale. But they have different plans. They do have Protect, which is annoying because, you know, it protects my Poltergeist. And after the leftover recovery, it's going to be back into multi-scale range. And this thing's annoying. Bulky Dragonite is the damn death of me. But here's the thing, I'm also not really super worried about this matchup because I can just Strength Sap it. So if it wants to, like, you know, Dragon Dance in front of me, that's kind of fine. I decided to just go for a Poltergeist here. I really want to do enough chip to where it can't be comfortably in that multi-scale range. But instead of going for the setup, they decide to just straight up click the Outrage, and that is enough to knock out the Bramblegast. So while I was able to stick around with one Strength Sap, I do now go down. And while that kind of sucks, here's the thing. Buddy straight up forgot that the Dedenne is a fairy type, and I can freely switch the thing in and be like, hey, go ahead and outrage this, buddy. You may look at me thinking I'm just an electric. I know. I gotta chalk this one up to people being like, I don't know what the hell a Dedenne even is. So as I outspeed and go for a Charge Beam, it of course misses. The Charge Beam misses way more than you would want it to, but that really sucks. So as they go for their Outrage turn, it obviously doesn't affect me. And then they also get the confusion early. I was really hoping for at least one more turn of Outrage. But, you know, Dedenne oftentimes doesn't get what it needs. But it's fine, because I can now just go for another Charge Beam. And I'm thinking they probably Earthquake here. But as they outspeed, they end up hitting themselves in the face as they tried to click Extreme Speed. So they wanted to just get some damage on the Dedenne, which, to be fair, would have done a lot. But then as I go for that Charge Beam, luckily a dude freaking connect that time. But we get the 30% chance for it to not give us the special attack boost, which absolutely breaks my little hamster balls. So we kind of rely on those Charge Beam boosts. But at least good news for me is I can then go for a Dazzling Gleam. They probably saw that they lived that Charge Beam, and they're like, hey, if they're going to click Charge Beam, I don't even need to Extreme Speed. But turns out, reverse Uno card, bitch. I do kill him with the Dazzling Gleam, and that's real satisfying. So as they now decide, they go back into the Urshifu, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. I literally outspeed this thing with the Sticky Web, and guess what? Thunderbolt kills it. So Water type Urshifu gets taught. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? I've now killed the thing twice, and Dedenne got to do it. So honestly, that feels pretty damn good. So as they now go back into Pomot. Look, this thing, we did not see a Lepid Berry earlier, so it does not have any PP for Revival Blessing, which is great. But I also don't really know what this thing wants to do. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to fire off a Dazzling Gleam. I have the coverage. It does end up being Focus Sash, because of course. We also, important to note, we would have gotten the kill there without any boost. But as they close combat, probably thinking it's going to do more than it does, it doesn't. I eat less than half from that, which is crazy. Dedenne resisting stuff, honestly being part fairy, is the part that makes this thing freaking usable. So I can't really Charge Beam the guy because of the fact that it's probably Volt Absorb. So as they finish, they know they're going to go down. They go for a Quick Attack, not even rocking the Mach Punch. Pulls out the Quick Attack, which is, I guess, better in that scenario as a neutral hit. But I finish it off, and down goes the Pommy, whatever the hell, whatever P guy this thing is. It's dead as hell, and I'm the better Pika clone, which is kind of a funny matchup. So they now decide to bring in the Poliwrath, and they have two Mons left. It's going to be it's Poliwrath along with a Pelipper in the back. So Poliwrath, I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what set this thing is or what it wants to do, but I'm going to go for an Endure. If I can get myself to a special attack boost, I can maybe kill with a T-Bolt. But They click Amnesia on the Poliwrath. I am sitting here confused. I mean, it's just a confusing situation. First of all, Dedenne just being out here, and then Amnesia Poliwrath. Buddy's cooking up something that may change the face of the metagame forever. Because now, as I click a Charge Beam, it's not able to do much. Now it gets it's a +4 special defense, and I'm like, well, shit. I need to just get enough damage on this thing to where I can just kill it, on the physical side at least. And now they go for the +6 on the Amnesia. I am still just incredibly confused about this entire match. But pulling out the Amnesia, I don't think I've ever even seen Amnesia happen before. But I'm continuing to throw off Thunderbolts because at least Dedenne stuck around alive this long. And as they go for the Dynamic Punch, it misses, of course. That's a 50% accurate move. And if surely this thing has Waterfall or Liquidation or something back there, but for them to opt to go for the Dynamic Punch, I don't know. They want to just punch me silly. And I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go for the Endure here just because they probably connect. They do. And I live it with 1, which also gives me some ducks over my head because now I'm confused. But that also then just puts me into Pataya range, of course. And then I get Cheek Pouch, and then I'm looking kind of healthy. And we've only seen 2 moves on the Poliwrath. A lot of the time, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but this one specifically, because I'm like, well, hey, at least if I can break through my confusion here, I can get enough to just maybe Dedenne clutches it here. We've seen Dedenne clutch it before. We're no strangers to it. Now, I do connect, but it's not enough to kill, obviously. But then it puts this thing into berry range itself. And we're just having a weird little buffet over here. It's going to be get it over half. It connect on another Dynamic Punch, but this time I lived with 3. So Cheek Pouch puts me in range to live another one. I do not know if this thing doesn't have water coverage or why you're clicking the Dynamic Punch. Color me just confused as hell out here. But Dedenne finally is going to be able to get off another Thunderbolt, and I'm like, give me a crit. We do not get the crit. It's able to live. They Dynamic Punch again, and at this point, I feel like Homeboy's got to be trolling. I'm convinced. But as I go for another Thunderbolt through the confusion, we do finally hit ourselves. Listen, I was probably due for that. I don't know. I again have no idea what Buddy is chefing up here, but I thought this one was kind of funny enough to throw in anyway. But regardless, look, I've gotten enough chip on the thing where I'm like, okay, I still have a physical attacker left in the form of Braviary, so I don't have to worry about any of those Amnesias. And not only that, but I have the coverage with a Sky Attack or Acrobatics, and Braviary is a pretty good dude to have here. So I bring Fella in, and I can just click the Sky Attack. Don't need any agility nonsense because, you know, what they have in the back being the the freaking Toilet Bird is fine. I go ahead and cloak myself in some Harsh Light. The move animation for Sky Attack is kind of tough, you got to admit. I get fully charged to the Power Herb. Just go ahead and bust him right in his weird little intestines. And that's going to be a dead Poliwrath. So that's got to be the most confusing Poliwrath of all time. But, you know, it happened. So now final mon is going to be the Pelipper. Honestly thought this thing was going to come in first, set up the rain for the the Swift Swim on the thing, but it doesn't. I can then go for an Acrobatics, which doesn't quite kill. And then as they go for that Hurricane, I was thinking this thing was going to fire off something weird. It does just click Hurricane, luckily, but we take it nicely. Another Acrobatics is going to be able to finish it off, and that's going to be the end of the game. So look, Dedenne got to kill some stuff, and so it's included. I don't know what the hell that one was, but that's going to be the end of that one. I almost dropped the ball on that one, but luckily we were able to catch the dub, and that's gonna be the end of that one. Now, that one was honestly weird, but I have literally one more extra, and we're showing out for the Dedenne, so I do not get the divorce paper filed against me. And I realize this is now a really long video, but screw it. I'm just over here having fun, and it's crazy if anybody's even still watching. So with that, let's jump into this last game. Alright, so this time my opponent is going to lead off with Clefable, looking like a big old blob of chewed bubblegum, and I don't know exactly what this thing wants to do. I'm thinking, hey, that's fine, a little Clefable Stealth Rock lead. I've got myself a spider who actually does not have Gunk Shot, which puts me, or even Poison Jab, which is not great. What's also worse is that they go for the Cosmic Power turn 1. I'm thinking to myself, this Clefable has immediately turned into a pretty large problem. Yeah, that's not great for me. But I do get up my Sticky Web. If I can somehow get through this asshole, I figure that to be pretty good. But I now immediately am going to go ahead and switch out here. I'm thinking this. Clefable generally is going to have a couple coverage options. It's going to probably have Moonblast, and then it's got something like Flamethrower. And honestly, an Assault-Vested Heatran is kind of the right guy for the job. So now as they go for a second Cosmic Power, doubles its defenses, and that is really bad. But best I can do is fire off a Flash Cannon. So I go ahead and check this out. I get the critical hit. Thank God. It just saves my ass from getting completely walled from a lead. And holy hell, I got pretty lucky on that one. I feel kind of bad about it, and I'm like, listen, buddy, if you want to just run, I understand. But they go into the Crocodile now, and on our newfound lease on life, I'm thinking, all right, let's see what we can get going here. So Crocodile surely just clicks the Earthquake here, you know, just destroys the Heatran. I'm going to go ahead and predict that, bring in the Braviary, who can then, you know, Braviary's in kind of a good spot here, as long as I don't take enough chip to the point where a Bullet Punch Metagross kills me. But I bring in the Eagle, we're freaking screaming Murica, and they make the prediction, and instead of the Earthquake, they click the Stone Edge. I bring my ass in. Not only that, but I get critted. So I'm like, okay, I paid that one forward. You know, they make the nice prediction. I think, you know, the crit probably mattered, so they get it back, and also they get a Moxie, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, that's pretty bad. But what I do have is Mudsdale. Now, Mudsdale should be able to just take anything it wants to throw at me, so I'm kind of free to set up a Stealth Rock here and then be on my little horsey way. Now, as they go for a foul play, guess what? I get critted again. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the freak crit against your Clefable. We're even now, dude. Jesus. The foul play does way more damage than it's supposed to. And as I do get up my Stealth Rock, now I'm kind of in danger of this Crocodile just running through me now. So I need to be able to get off an attack here. As they foul play once more, thank God I live it with 7, because that gives me another stamina boost. And now, if they take a little bit of Rocky Helmet as well, I can fire off a Body Press, step on him, and that's a dead Crocodile. So things have gone a little bit awry here. There's crits flying all over the place. You never know what the hell's going to happen, but that's going to be a dead Crocodile. So with that, now they can bring in the Roaring Moon. And Roaring Moon is a bit of a problem here. First of all, it at least does get Sticky Web. It doesn't look like he's touching the ground, but he is. And that's pretty great, because Stealth Rock and Sticky Web makes my life a whole lot easier. And it also has a booster energy. I'm thinking hopefully not speed. It does turn out to be booster energy attack. So that's really good, because that means that I can still outspeed with a lot of my stuff. And also, you can't really afford to set up in the face of me, because I still can hit really hard with a Body Press. So they do finish me off, take a little Rocky Helmet in the process, and down goes the Mudsdale. But I kind of did my job. You know, I got my Stealth Rock up. We had a nice little time. And guess what time it is now? I figure, you know what? I can afford to bring in Dedenne here. The thing is, I potentially either threaten this thing out with, you know, fairy coverage, or I stay in here and they click Earthquake. Now I'm thinking the latter. I figure they probably want to go for an Earthquake here. So in order to combat that, I am gonna pull out the Terra Flying. I'm gonna get some little birthday balloon. Is there a cuter little guy than a Dedenne with some balloons on his head? It's his birthday, and you must comment happy birthday Dedenne in the chat. But I go for the Charge Beam, thinking maybe I can get a little special attack boost from it. I do, which is always nice, and I'm like, all right, now I just live in Earthquake. Turns out they go for an Iron Head, which is probably the best neutral answer they've got against me, but luckily I'm able to live. Now, the bad news is it doesn't put me in Pataya range, but the good news is it allows me to just outspeed and just straight up kill the thing with a Dazzling Gleam. I have +1 special attack. We're looking pretty damn nice, and Dedenne is at least in a little bit of a spot here. So, now as they bring in the Ceruledge, I'm thinking, first of all, do not have any priority, that would stink, but it takes some Stealth Rock, which is great. And now as I'm looking at this, I'm going to click Endure. Endure could reveal potential for whatever they want to go for, but also it's going to just give me that Pataya boost. And if it doesn't have priority, another special attack boost just might put me into range to where I can kill, you know, with a Thunderbolt. So, it turns out they go for the Terra Fire here. They're going to put the candles on the head. And as I click the Endure here, my plan is basically just to get a little lunchtime. Your boy is hungry. And as they click the Bitter Blade, that is going to, you know, be boosted by the Terra Fire. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're that, you don't need the extra damage. But I leave it with 1, which is sweet. They steal what little HP I had, which is annoying, because look at this. As they get that just little smidge of HP, it also loses it from the Life Orb. But it is now Pataya Berry time, baby. I pull out a berry that is literally twice the size of my own body. Gives me another special attack boost, and we get the Cheek Pouch just, you know, for good measure. Doesn't really ever do anything. I guess it has. I lied about that. But now as I fire off the Thunderbolt, I'm thinking, please have enough to kill. It does not. It is in such close range to die from that. Sadly, we do not get the kill, and that allows them to then finish me off with the Shadow Claw. So down goes the Dedenne. But check this out. Since they have the Life Orb, it knocks itself out in return. And we're going to chalk that one up for the Dedenne kill, baby. We killed 2 huge threats, essentially, with the thing. We also get rid of their Terra, which is huge. And that's a more realistic, you know, kind of outcome for what this Dedenne can do most of the time. If you can get 1 kill with it, it's pretty sick. But 2, we'll take it. So we still got a game to be played here. And you got some very scary threats back there. So I'm thinking this. First of all, On the empty battlefield, I go Heatran. Now, as they go into the Metagross, we're a couple of similar looking fellas. It feels like we'd be buddies if we weren't enemies currently. But check it out. I figure I can kill with a Magma Storm or a Lava Plume. But it turns out they go for the Earthquake with the Quick Claw. Allows it to outspeed, and that is an absolute ball buster, dude. The Quick Claw really gets the random chance to go first and kills me with the Earthquake. So now I'm like, dude, we must avenge the Dedenne here. I've got 2 Mons left, and I'll be damned if I'm going to die to an Xbox 360 that has a Quick Claw. So here's the thing. I can now go into Bramblegast, who's actually in a spot to be able to take an attack from the thing. Now, I figure if you're going to use that Quick Claw to kill me, I'm going to beat the shit out of you with it. I go for the Poltergeist, bash him in the face with their own Quick Claw, which is sad because it doesn't quite have enough to kill, but then the Meteor Mash doesn't even kill me, which is sick as hell. So then I can fire off one more Poltergeist. That is going to kill the Metagross, and thank God the Quick Claw didn't activate again there. So we've now gotten ourselves back to a point where I'm thinking, hold on a second. We might just be able to win this. And their final Mon is going to be Meowscarada. So check it out. Meowscarada is going to come in, and the Sticky Web is incredibly important here, because what that's going to do is allow Bramblegast to be faster. And when Bramble is faster, guess what, baby? I am now in a spot to go for the Strength Sap, because I'm thinking I can drop their attack one stage, get myself back to full HP, and if I'm them, I probably click the knockoff here, and that is why I have a Colbur Berry. So I get back to full. It turns out they go for the Night Slash, activates the Colbur Berry regardless, reduces my dark damage. It now does less than half, which is sick. And now I'm thinking, look, I just need some chip on the thing. If I can get it just a little bit of damage, Ariados should be able to clutch it, especially since we've got this thing's attack dropped one stage. So I, of course, missed the Power Whip, because Power Whip does not connect. If I had a more pure heart and good intentions, it might have connected there. I do not, unfortunately, it turns out. And now we got ourselves a good old 1v1 situation. I've got a full health Ariados, which is great news. And they have a -1 attack Meowscarada. And honestly, this spider kind of bulky. Plus, I have the Focus Sash to guarantee even with a crit or anything crazy, I can live. So they go for the Night Slash here, hoping for the crit. It does not happen. And luckily, thank God, I connect on the Mega Horn. So that's going to be able to finish off the Meowscarada. And that's going to be the end of the game. So that was another game that was just kind of ridiculous. Just a weird one. But, you know, I'm just battling whoever comes up on the freaking random battle. And regardless, that's a fun one. And Dedenne is sick as hell. That's going to be the end of the video. I will spare you any more nonsense. But listen, if you did stick around this entire time, I really do appreciate you making the dream come true out here. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.